Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah, amma ba'd. Before I start, a quick reminder. The Prophet, peace be upon him, told us in the hadith, إِذَا أَتَى أَحَدُكُمُ الصَّلَاةِ فَلْيَأْتِهَا وَعَلَيْهِ السَّكِينَةُ وَالْوَقَارُ. If one of you comes to prayer, then let him come with a peace and quiet. So you come in a respectful manner. وقار. فما أدركتم فأتموا فما أدركتم فصلوا وما فاتكم فأتموا. Whatever you're able to catch, then you pray with the Imam. Whatever you miss, then you complete after the Imam has finished. The reason I mention this is because I notice sometimes people are late to the congregation, to the prayer, and they run to join the Jama'ah. And you could hear their feet stomping on the floor, trying to make the ruku'. And I appreciate the concern that you want to join the prayer and not miss a rak'ah, but this is not the way, it is not the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So the Prophet told us, even if you know you're going to miss a rak'ah, still walk quietly, nicely, peacefully. Different reasons. One reason is because by the time you make it to the saf, the line, and you've been running, you're going to try and catch your breath. You're going to be tired. You're not going to be able to focus on prayer. And second reason is because you're going to disturb all the people around you. So this is the sunnah of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Don't worry about how much you're going to miss. It's totally fine. Even if you miss all four, you can make it up. But don't come running, and it's not really Islamic to do so. Okay. Tonight we will cover another story of Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. And this story you find in Surah Maryam, Mary, the mother of Jesus, alayhi salam. And you could, for those people who want to use this later for reference, it starts at verse 41 and it ends about, well, you could say verse 49. So in these verses, we see a conversation happening between the Prophet Ibrahim and his father. And as we're going to see, this is not an easy conversation. Maybe yourself, you've had some difficult conversations with your dad. And regardless of age, sometimes it is hard to know what to do. It's hard to determine how you act, how you behave when it comes to speaking to your dad. And the same thing applies to the dad. It's not easy. Sometimes it is not easy to speak to the child, to the son. It doesn't have to be a child, to the son in general. And to articulate and speak properly. So tonight, inshallah, we're going to learn quite a bit of material related to this mutual conversation that has to happen. Omar, can you move there, please? Thank you, brother. Zayd, can you sit up? Thanks. Okay, so it is interesting that the conversation starts with a mention of one of the qualities, one of the attributes of Ibrahim. So it tells us, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. It says, mention to people. So this is a command from God to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to tell the story of Ibrahim, which tells us that this is really important, that all of us should hear the story. And it's not just for the companions of the Prophet, it is to all of us. Now, the two qualities mentioned are Siddiq and Nabi. Some Muslims think that Siddiq is limited to Abu Bakr. So if you ask them, who is the Siddiq? They say Abu Bakr. And that's an easy answer, right? But then you ask, who else is a Siddiq? What does it mean to be Siddiq? And they have no idea. So for example, they can tell who's a scholar, who is a martyr, who is a pious person. Comes to Siddiq, they're not clear what that means. Now, alhamdulillah, luckily, we have the Prophet, peace be upon him, define to us what is Siddiq. He told us in a hadith, إن الرجل لا يصدق ويتحرى الصدق حتى يكتب عند الله صديقا. A man will tell the truth and keep telling the truth. And he will go out of his way telling the truth, يتحرى, until he's written as a Siddiq. So he is written as what? Siddiq. So this is exactly the definition of a Siddiq. So every one of us could be a Siddiq. Now you say, well, that's not a problem, that is easy. I can tell the truth. I'll tell you, this is maybe the hardest, one of the hardest things to do. Because here he's not only saying that you tell the truth once in a while, you tell the truth when you feel like it. No, he said you tell the truth on a regular basis, you tell the truth, you go out of your way, telling the truth in every possible situation. And if ever you have to lie, it's gotta be the exception. And then and only then you're going to be written as a Siddiq. So we learned that this is possible. Everybody could be a Siddiq, not only the prophets. But here's the problem. A lot of times people think that they can win by being deceitful. Even Muslims, you talk to them sometimes, they think that the way to be successful in business and life is to be deceitful, is to avoid telling the truth. And it's a problem when people think that there is somehow some gain from telling lies, or from not being truthful, or for telling or speaking some untruth. Now, one thing we have to realize is that if you tell lies, it's not just the hereafter. Every time you tell a lie, you are compromising your character. You are weakening your character. Your character will become weaker and weaker every single time you tell a lie. On the other hand, every time you tell the truth, you're strengthening your character. Now, there are basically two types of people in life. One type, everybody is aiming to be good in life. Everybody is aiming to accomplish something. But there are two types. There's one type who aims to accomplish status and power. And let's not beat around the bush. Let's not fool ourselves. There are people like that. Muslims, non-Muslims, many people, their aim in life is to accomplish status and power. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily wrong or bad in itself. Many times it is. But it is not the best you can aim for. There are other people, maybe few, who aim to strengthen their character and their ability. Now, what is the difference, you say? Because somebody can say, well, I'm doing it for the sake of Islam. I'm strengthening my status and my power for the sake of Islam. The difference is, Talal, can you move over there, please? Okay. One more chance. Some people will say, well, I don't see any problem with that because this is my intention is good. What's wrong with seeking status and power? The problem is you could lose your status any minute. Power comes and goes, as we see around us. But if you have a strength of character, no one will ever take it from you. It will go with you anywhere you go. And people will see it. If you have a certain ability, a certain skill, talent, no one can come and take it from you. No matter how bad it becomes, no matter how bad the situation is, no one can come and snatch this quality from you. It's with you anywhere you go. So that is the difference. If you have a strong character, this is an asset you have for the rest of your life. And I'm telling you, when you tell the truth, every time you tell it, you are strengthening your character. And this is such an important asset. Now, something else you see in this hadith. He told us, you keep doing that. You go out of your way telling the truth. Well, that requires one thing. It requires that you are paying attention. You are paying attention to your speech and your action. If you're not paying attention, you're not going to notice if you were not authentic, if you were not truthful. And this is the concept of muraqabah. That's another topic, but let me talk about it a bit because this is really important. The concept of muraqabah is the fact that you're able to watch your own self. You're able to monitor and observe your actions and your speech. So for example, let's say you're at school and you're talking to someone. If you came later, like same day, maybe before you sleep, and sat and thought about what happened on that day, what you spoke, you ask yourself, was this the truth? Was I pretending? Was I pretending that I know something I don't, so I don't look ridiculous? I don't look like someone who's not smart or intelligent? Was I lying to myself? Because this is a form of a lie. You're lying to yourself. You think you're going to look good if you do that. I'm saying on the long term, it doesn't serve you any good. It's better to be transparent, honest, and truthful. And this is actually the quality of the prophets and the companions of the prophet. So for example, we know that the prophets were Siddiq, and a great example, the example of Ibrahim AS. And Allah told us in the Quran clearly, he was what? He was a Siddiq. We also know the companions of the prophets because they're watching the prophets, they're learning from the prophets, and that's what they get. They see this quality of being truthful. And this quality, again, it's not just a statement, it's also your actions. I mean, are you authentic or are you fake? Like sometimes you sit and talk to some people and you can tell right away they're fake people. They're very superficial. They care about the silly things, the insignificant things. You can tell right away they're not deep. They're shallow. And then on the other hand, you see some people who are deep, they are honest, they are transparent. You don't fear being around them. You trust them. And this is something else that is really important. To be able to accomplish trust in this life, that you have some people who trust you. That you're able to trust certain people. Wallahi, this is better than many, much money or false friendships. I mean, you have some friends who will just abandon you the minute they think they're not going to be able to benefit from you. This is not the type of friendship you want. I don't care. I mean, it's not about the numbers. Some people say, well, I only have 2 friends or 3 friends or 4 friends. So what? If these are people you can trust, if these are people you know they tell the truth and you can rely on them, this is what you want. So this is what you should do in life. Inshallah, some of you are young, very young. And if you could do that from the beginning, because later in life, if you've been lying and telling lies for 30, 40 years, it is harder. It is harder to adjust. If you can teach yourself from the beginning, from very young, to tell the truth, and you're conscious of your actions. You're conscious that you're telling the truth on purpose because you want so, because it is necessary to do so. You can make a great man, a great woman out of yourself. And that is really the concept of being Siddiq. So this concept is not limited to prophets and companions and messengers. It could definitely extend to all of us. It takes some work in the beginning. You can go through trials because you're truthful, but at the end, it will pay off. It will pay off big time. Now, what you're going to witness here in this conversation, you're going to see the truthfulness of Ibrahim coming out. I mean, Ibrahim was able to handle a very, very difficult conversation that most of us will not be able to do. The most difficult conversations are the conversations between family members. Speaking honestly to your brother about something that bothers you, for example. It takes you 10 years, 20 years to say it, and sometimes you won't. And you'd rather have this, this very dry, artificial relationship between you and your sibling, but you won't speak the truth because it is so hard. It's not easy. The most difficult conversations are between a father and a son, a mother and a daughter, a brother and a sister. And it's not different from yesterday. It's not different from the time of Ibrahim a.s. So there's a reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about this one quality of Ibrahim before He tells us about the conversation between him and his father. Because as we're going to see from the conversation, there's a lot of truth that comes out. There's a lot of hard, difficult truth that comes out. It's really hard to speak. It's really hard to articulate. But Ibrahim was able to do so. And I could just imagine how hard it must have been on Ibrahim. It was only possible because he was truthful. So, first he said, إذ قال لأبيه يا أبت لم تعبد ما لا يسمع ولا يبصر ولا يغني عنك شيئا. I'll tell you one thing. The hardest thing in life is to go and tell someone you regard as a role model, someone who is a superior to you, someone who you look up to, that you have to go and tell them that you are wrong. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's really, really hard to do. And to say it in a nice way, like Ibrahim did, is even harder. Because even the people who venture and try and say it, they say it in a resentful way. So nowadays we have this phenomena of like teenagers speaking back to their parents and disrespecting their parents. And sometimes even severing the relationship and leaving the house. So all of that is happening. So yes, you might say they are speaking the truth maybe sometimes, but they don't do it the right way. So the method is important as well. What you notice in Ibrahim a.s., this balance between speaking the truth, being honest, and at the same time being gentle and being respectful to his father. So you're going to see this throughout the conversation. So first he said, Ya abati. So if you were to translate Ya abati, it's not just, oh father. It means kind of like, oh daddy, if you will. Abati is like daddy. So it's a very, like a close relationship that he's trying to establish here. So he's saying, and you see it repeated over and over again. Like some people might sneak it out once. You barely can hear it. Oh, daddy. And then you speak. No, he's repeating in every verse. Over and over again. Ya abati. Lima ta'bud. Ya abati inni qad ja'ani. Ya abati la ta'bud shaytan. Ya abati inni akhafu. 4 or 5 times he's repeating this word, oh my father, or you could say, oh daddy. So first he said, why do you worship something that does not hear or see and cannot bring any benefit or harm? And what you notice here also in the style of Ibrahim a.s., he's asking a rhetorical question, because that is gentler than making a statement and saying, I'm right, you're wrong. He's basically asking an inquisitive question to make his father think. Like, how come you worship something, to my knowledge, does not have the qualities of a divine? Like, he's not worthy of your worship. So why do you waste your time worshiping something or someone that does not have the qualities of God? Cannot bring you any harm or benefit. I mean, this is not a God you should worship. And then he said, oh Father, إِنِّي قَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَمْ يَأْتِكَ. Again, you have to be very, very delicate when you say these things. No matter how you say it, some people could take it offensively, like they can become defensive about it. There's no good way of putting it, really. So you can see Ibrahim trying his best. So basically, he said, there has been some knowledge that came to me that has not come to you. Now some people may come and say, or they can interpret it as saying, "Oh Father, I know more than you do." But he did not say that. He did not say, "I know better," like you hear many teenagers. The way they say and the way they act like they know it all. You notice Ibrahim did not say that. He did not say, "I know more than you do." He put it in a passive way. Like there has been some knowledge that came my way that did not come your way. Like it just happened that there's some knowledge out there that happened to come by me, but did not happen to come by you. إِنِّي قَدْ جَاءَنِي مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَمْ يَأْتِكَ. Again, if Ibrahim said, "I know what you don't," he would have been telling the truth. He would not have been lying. Because indeed, for Ibrahim specifically, there was a revelation that came from him. God spoke to him. This is why also you notice in the beginning, Allah mentioned the other quality, which is Nabi. إِنَّهُ كَانَ صَدِّيقًا نَبِيًّا. The combination of being truthful and being a prophet. So obviously, keep in mind also that Ibrahim had some authority that you and I do not have. So also you got to be careful when you speak to your father in the future. Don't assume that you're Ibrahim. Just keep in mind the fact that Ibrahim was a prophet. And the subtle difference is that in the case of a prophet, he's gotten an indisputable truth from God. Versus you, who's still young and learning, so whatever you think you know could be wrong. Just keep that in mind. Now again, this is not telling us that we should not have a conversation with our fathers. And that if we learn something that we should maybe have this conversation or debate and just check your knowledge out. It's okay. Challenge your father in a nice way, that's fine. I mean, I personally do not see any problem with it. If you learn something new and you've seen your father say or do something that does not agree with that new knowledge you acquired, it's totally fine to go and check it out. Test it out. But don't go with this attitude that you know better. You go with the attitude that I just learned something, what do you think? Just like Ibrahim, asking, how come you worship something, that to me does not make sense? So you see how he put it out. He said, there has been some knowledge that came my way that has not come to you. فَاتَّبِعْنِي أَهْدِكَ صِرَاطًا سَوِيًّا. Follow my path and you'll be guided to a straight path. يَا أَبَتِ لَا تَعْبُدِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Oh my father, do not worship the devil. Now, here some scholars have said that it means do not obey the devil or shaitan, Satan, by worshipping the idols. It does not mean necessarily that you're worshipping the Satan, that the father of Ibrahim was worshipping Satan himself. I mean, he was not into Satan worship as far as we know. Nowadays, there are some people who do that. They're involved in Satan worship. But to our knowledge, Ibrahim's father was not involved in Satan worship. But here it could mean that the fact that you obey Satan, you are worshiping Satan. Because obedience is part of worship. This is why we say, if you say, I worship God, it also means that you obey the command or the commands of God. It is not limited to obedience, but it's part of it. إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ كَانَ لِرَحْمَنِ عَصِيًّا. Indeed, Satan was disobedient to God. This is why you don't want to obey or follow the footsteps of Satan. يَا أَبَتِ إِنِّي أَخَافُ أَن يَمَسَّكَ عَذَابٌ مِّنَ الرَّحْمَنِ فَتَكُونَ لِلشَّيْطَانِ وَلِيًّا. Now you see the concern of Ibrahim. And this is like, maybe I would say, I'm conflicted, but I would say this is maybe the toughest part to speak. Like here basically Ibrahim is saying, The reason I'm doing this is not to show that I know better. It's not that I want to be arrogant or to show that I have, I'm on a higher level because I'm a prophet. No, the reason I'm saying this is because I have a concern for you. I have a concern for your state. I fear for you. إِنِّي أَخَافُ أَنْ يَمَسَّكَ عَذَابٌ مِّنَ الرَّحْمَنِ. I fear that a torment, a punishment from God will come and touch you. يَمَسَّكَ. That you'll be touched by the punishment of God. Again, even there, you notice that he said Ar-Rahman, like a punishment from the merciful. Usually, you don't put those two things in one sentence. You don't say the ever merciful, the all merciful is going to punish someone. But here, I feel that Ibrahim AS, even when he mentioned punishment, to show his mercy toward his father and hoping for God's mercy upon his father, he used this name, Ar-Rahman. So this is all about mercy. It's not about showing who knows better. It's not a fight. It's not a conflict. There should never be a conflict between you and your father. Now, the answer of the father comes. So all this time, Ibrahim was talking, was speaking. The father was listening. And all you hear from the father is the following. قال أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم. He said, are you, Ibrahim, are you implying, are you saying that you're abandoning my idols? So the father of Ibrahim, all he could get out of this conversation is that Ibrahim was a rebel. All he could care about is curse the idols and abandon the tradition, because this was a tradition of not just Ibrahim, it was a tradition of that whole society. And a lot of people stick to tradition, to culture. So really the father of Ibrahim was not into like arguing with Ibrahim a.s. He was not looking at logic at all. His main concern seems that he's worried about Ibrahim, the fact that he was leaving the tradition, he was leaving the culture, that he was the counter-culture, as we say these days. You have these movements now, counter-culture. So Ibrahim, in that sense, he was counter-culture, right? And he said, لَإِن لَمْ تَنْتَهِي لَأَرْجُمَنَّكَ. If you don't stop right now, I will stone you. Now, here, stoning, scholars mentioned, I could not find any scholar who said that stoning here means stoning with rocks. This is not the meaning of stoning here. Because stoning could also be with words. So they said stoning here, it means to use a harsh language, to curse or insult Ibrahim. So basically the father is saying, if you don't stop, you're going to hear some bad words from me. You're going to hear something you don't like. So you better stop it. وَهْجُرْنِي مَلِيًّا. Or better yet, leave me alone. Leave me in peace. So basically you see the father of Ibrahim pretty much ending the relationship right there and then. And again, you can imagine how hard it must have been on Ibrahim a.s. because this was not his intention. And it is really hard because, and some of you are fathers here, some of you, inshallah, are to be fathers. So this is take it as an advice, if you can. I believe the role of the father is tremendously hard for the following reason. The father has to walk a very fine line between two important qualities, if you will. And I believe every father should have these two qualities. Now, don't think about your father and hold it against him. Think about yourself, that you're going to be a father one day and how you're going to do it right. Because it's like a puzzle. And many people cannot figure it out. So on one hand, one role of the father, one role a father should play is a role of encouragement. Like you're supposed to be encouraging your son, your daughter. You're not the mother. The mother is the one who stays with the children the majority of the time. So she nurtures, She protects. I mean, a lot of the protection comes from the mother, unlike common thinking. Most of the time, it is the mother who is overprotective, right? But the father, on the other hand, his role is to encourage, is to push you forward gently. And if a son does not hear encouraging words from his father, it's very devastating. So it's a reminder to all of us that this is something you have to do. And if you're not a father yet, this is something you should remember, and maybe something you should practice even. Because it's really important that you play this role of encouragement. But on the other hand, that's what is really conflicting. The father is also the one who sets the rules. He's kind of judgmental. He has to judge you in a good way. Because if he doesn't do that, you're going to wander all over the place. You're going to mess up. And if he does not straighten you up a bit at least, you're going to be lost. You're not going to be disciplined. The mother, a lot of times it's hard for the mother to put discipline. Because the mother is all about love and nourishment. It is the father who has to play this role. And if you're absent from your kid's life, you're going to see a lot of times that discipline is also not there. It's absent. So it's a reminder to all fathers to be present in your children's life. So what happens though, and that's the conflict, a lot of times by trying to play this role of being a judge and being a disciplinary, like someone who enforces the rules in the house, you could become tyrannical rather. You become a tyrant. I'll joke. This is mostly seen in Arabic fathers. A lot of times you notice they're very tyrannical. I'll speak about that because it's my culture, so I know about it. And you might see it in other cultures as well. But you see a lot of dictators in Arab houses. So that's a little too far on one end. You need that encouragement. You need to give that gentle push. But you also need to enforce and put a discipline. And it's really intricate. It's really delicate. So you have to try and walk this fine line, not to go on one extreme or the other. It seems that the father of Ibrahim was a bit on the tyrannical side. For example, and again, we can only guess or perhaps try and hypothesize. Speculate. Thank you. That's the right word. Thank you. Speculate. I love when I see young people able to use good, strong vocabulary. Okay, this is really important to be able to articulate yourself, to be eloquent, and to speak up. So, if we were to speculate, we could have said that maybe the father of Ibrahim, even though he disagreed with his son, he could have encouraged him. He could have said, for one time, I'm proud of you, son. Because you know what? Although I disagree with you, you were able to confront a whole people, a whole tribe, a whole nation. You were able to speak the truth despite how hard it was. You were able to use your own intellect and feel confident about your belief despite the fact that everybody was against you. You were able to go through the fire and come out unharmed and unshaken. And your belief was even stronger. But he never said any of that. We don't know if he did, but we're not aware of any example like that. Can you wait a little bit because I want to finish the recording. Thank you. Again, it's a speculation. It seems that he was a bit on the tyrannical side. The fact he was not willing to have the conversation with Ibrahim. In fact, you don't see a conversation. It's a conversation from one side. Ibrahim, really spilled his guts, trying to explain himself, trying to be nice and gentle, and at the same time trying to be logical. And what he got from the father, on the other hand, is something very dry, and it's very short, brief. Like you're just trying to, basically you are challenging my position. You are challenging my status, and my status is in jeopardy because of you, Ibrahim. So the best outcome here, the best thing we can do here is to separate. Okay. Even then, the response of Ibrahim was, قَالَ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكَ. He said, peace be upon you, Father. Salamun alayk. Or it could also mean that I'll depart in peace. This is your wish. This is what you wanted. I will do that. I will honor your request. You wanted me to leave. I will leave. And it seems maybe this is the one trigger for Ibrahim leaving the land of Iraq. As we're going to see inshallah next time, Ibrahim will make this great migration to the land of Sham, the land of Syria, Palestine, that region, right? He ends up actually in Palestine itself. And later going between Mecca and Palestine. So it seems that this is the direct reason, the direct trigger for his migration. Because you notice, immediately after that, he said, وَأَعْتَزِلُكُمْ. And I will leave you alone. Now he's speaking not just to his father, he's speaking to his whole tribe. He said, I will leave you. I will separate from you. Now before that, he told his father, peace be upon you. I will seek forgiveness from God for you. I will ask Allah to forgive you. إِنَّهُ كَانَ بِحَفِيًّا. Indeed, my God, my Lord, has always been good to me. Has always responded to my prayers. He's always been responding and honoring my prayers. And then he said, وَأَعْتَزِلُكُمْ وَمَا تَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. And I declare that I'm done with you. I've done everything possible. And this is the end of my mission here. Of course, Ibrahim goes to become a father of a nation. Goes to become an imam of many people after him. So he's going to become a very big figure in history. Up till now, many people claim Ibrahim AS. We call him the Abrahamic faith. Not just Islam. Many other people claim Ibrahim as their prophet, their leader, etc. One more thing I want to say before I conclude. And I think this ties to our situation here in America, the Muslims in America. How is this relevant to us here? Besides what we learn as far as a relationship between a father and a son. Because that's a great learning right there. But how about our situation as a Muslim community? What can we learn from the example of Ibrahim here in this particular passage? What you really see in the example of Ibrahim here is the fact, his ability to disagree, his ability to articulate his opinion without hurting or disrespecting the other. And that is really important because again, here you see two extremes. On one hand, people who are willing to compromise Islam or not speak about what Islam is, or try and say that Islam is just like everybody else, everything, it's like every other religion, we worship the same God, blah, blah, blah. And they're not willing to articulate what Islam is. Thinking or confusing that with being nice and respectful. But then you have the other extreme who is willing to condemn the other faith and willing to insult the other faith and so on. And you see an example of Ibrahim, a very good example, like walking in the middle. So on one hand, he is speaking the truth, not being afraid of disagreeing with his own father, at the same time being very respectful. And as a result, I say, for us today here, just examples. It's totally okay to say that I disagree with the Jews, the Christians, the atheists. We don't believe in the same thing. We don't believe in the same God. And let me specify. Of course, we believe in the Creator. And maybe the Jew does believe in the Creator. But sometimes it can be confusing. Because the Christian might come and say, I believe in God, and they mean Jesus. So here, if a Muslim says, I do not believe in that God. I believe in the God who created everybody, including Jesus. But at the same time, you say it in a very polite manner. You don't say it in a disrespectful manner. You're not trying to put someone else down. All you're doing is you're articulating your faith. You're saying, this is my faith. And sometimes it is like the other faith, and some other time it is different. So it's okay to articulate the differences. And that we should not regard as disrespecting the other. Just like Ibrahim. Likewise, you might say, I disagree with the conduct of the homosexuals, the gays and lesbians. I totally disagree with that conduct. But again, you say it in a respectful manner. Just like Ibrahim AS. He was speaking his opinion, speaking the truth, but speaking it in a very gentle and polite way. And I think this is really the crux, this is the core of the conversation of Ibrahim with his father. So this applies to any truth you believe in. I don't think we should shy away from speaking the truth, what we believe in, but at the same time we have to be very respectful, very aware of the feelings of the other. We should not try and go and hurt the feelings of the other on purpose. I mean, sometimes people get hurt just by speaking the truth. That's not the case. I'm saying you should not go on purpose and trying to demean and belittle the other. That's not the purpose here. The purpose is to speak the truth as you know it, and that's good enough. And to be as respectful as possible. I think this is what we could take from the message of Ibrahim, the conversation of Ibrahim with his father, and how we can apply it today, to our situation today. We have many hard conversations that we have to conduct in this environment. So it's really important that we're able to learn from Ibrahim and to walk the footsteps of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So this is what I have for today, inshallah. I'll stop here and take questions. Oh, we have some. Yeah.